Today we're going to look back at each nation's journey to the final, starting with Spain. Of course, going all the way back in June, they won their group very impressively, scored 5 goals. They didn't concede, and straight from the off, Jim Campbell, they looked like one of the teams to beat.
They did, didn't they? I mean, that game against Croatia, they won it very, very comfortably. I think
What about the underlying data, though, Jim?
What is the underlying data?
The underlying data is that Spain actually weren't that good.
Who are you doing an impression of?
All of them. All of those boffins.
Right.
As Jim calls them, boff choffs.
Yeah, the old boff choffs.
Yeah, the
their
absolute
underlying
Dungeons and Dragons nerds that have taken over the sport.
Okay.
I know you're anti-data, but when you do look at how many goals they've scored up to this point, it does seem like
I'm into that data.
They've got more about them in that sense.
I'm not
The
anti-data.
overlying data is quite strong, isn't it?
The ball going in the net kind of data seems compelling.
I'm not anti-data or
Right.
uncle data.
Right. Big Mama UEFA? Any relation?
Spain have scored 13 goals already in this tournament,
Great, isn't it?
same as England got in Qatar. Jim, you were going to say something about
Those
Spain.
do not carry over. Let's make that very
Well,
clear.
it's FIFA, not UEFA.
No, exactly.
It's Big Daddy FIFA.
Big Daddy FIFA.
Oh yeah, Big Daddy FIFA. He gets
No, thank
he
you.
gets pissed.
He does.
He does.
He's always
loves
done
a
the
drink.
workies.
Loves a junket. Absolutely
yeah.
loves a junket.
Jim, Spain versus Croatia.
They did look impressive really, really early on, didn't they? And we were all like, okay, this is worrying that they're this good this early. But I do think, not just because of what all the nerds were saying about the underlying data, there was a sense that maybe like, have they
not all
started too strong? Are they going to blow themselves out early? Are Croatia just a bit shit? It's like, you scored 3 straight away. You wasted those goals. But that has emphatically not been the case, has it? Spain are very much the real deal and have shown it from the off.
Yeah.
And also, through ball from Rodri to Morata.
All right.
Dancing feet from Fabian Ruiz.
Yeah.
And a wonderful ball from wonder kid Lamine Yamal into Carvajal, who ran over there like he'd just seen Yamal's GCSE result.
Yes.
And
The
was
flying
like,
volley.
Well done, son. Exactly. It was all the hits.
Yes, it was.
Early on.
And there were some familiar faces straight from the off, in obviously Rodri and Luke, you and I certainly on Lions Watch were saying you have to take Spain seriously, even for the mere fact they have Rodri in the centre of the pitch, as it's proved to be. Pedri, of course, won't be available for the final. His tournament has ended. But in these halcyon days of June 2024, he was in that midfield with Fabian Ruiz, and they just we often sort of been yearning for England to click Spain. Boom, straight away in that midfield, supporting that front line of Yamal, as you've mentioned, Morata and Williams. It was so bloody exciting.
They were essentially the envy of, other than Germany, probably every other team in the tournament, because they were playing really exciting football, creating a lot of chances and putting them away, like from the off. And there's a sense with international football, isn't it, that it's like you can't win games and enjoy them. And it isn't just England that feel that way. But you do look at Spain and think, well, they do it.
Yeah, well, I think that's it. And as we'll talk about them, we'll progress through the tournament and their games. But you're right. The kind of the youthful exuberance they have on the wings, the experience they have in the spine of that team. It was a lovely concoction. And when they played Italy in the following game, I mean, it was the most one-sided 1-0 you can see. But you realise kind of how serious that this team were and are. And I think that was the game where everyone thought, this is relentless. I can't see them tiring.
I thought this is serious as cancer because Rhythm is a dancer.
Oh, right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was like me playing Pete at table tennis this game.
Oh, really?
One-sided, Marcus.
And for the listeners, they won't be able to figure out.
No, they should work it out themselves.
Yeah, probably as you mentioned it, then I think that's the giveaway.
It might be a bit of a clue.
Imagine that he in it.
That was the most relentless 1-0, the only goal coming from an own goal you will ever see in your life.
Yeah.
Don't bother. If anyone says to you in the future, oh, there's this great game where one team wins 1-0 and it's an own goal, but they battered them. I've already seen the absolute dictionary definition of that. I don't need to watch another one. It was relentless.
It was Yamal's proper, like, hello, yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
kind of match as well.
yeah.
He was taking on players and then taking them on again and beating them and providing some lovely passes.
He and Williams throughout the tournament, obviously this is something England are going to have to worry about. Part of it feels like it's their youth, but they are constantly asking questions, but in the way children do. It's like, why? Why?
Why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? I'll do whatever I want. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what are you standing over there for? Because you should be standing over there.
Are we nearly there yet? It's another one those kids always say, isn't it?
That is another one. And of course,
sadly they are.
Yeah, well, and they were there. They played Albania, fielded second string, but certainly rested players. They earned the right. And again, that didn't seem to halt their progress as well. Some it's different schools of thought, and of course it's not the same across the board, but they had the luxury of doing that.
Yeah. It is very rare, isn't it, as well, that a team wins all 3 of their group games, often because they do make a lot of changes towards the end, but it's a sign of the depth they had in the squad there. And
also without conceding as well. It's been a very, very impressive campaign for Spain, and in that group phase, or group stage, we saw it. We absolutely saw it. And the manager, Luis de la Fuente, of course, it wasn't that long ago where his side in qualification, they were beaten by Scotland. There was questions asked about him, despite having won that UEFA Nations League.
Yeah,
will people respect it?
Yeah. You are carrying the torch. I feel like it's an Olympic torch. You know, famously, the Olympic torch never goes out, and it's passed around to different athletes. And
where is it now?
Goes to who knows? Somewhere near Paris, presumably, and it lights the flame, and the whole flame of the Olympics carries on forever. That's like you with the Nation League, but it's only you. You're not passing it to anyone. Every time you pass it to someone, they just pass it straight back, and you've got to carry that torch the whole time.
Yeah, but I feel like the Rodri of it then.
You are the bit like the Rodri.
Give it back to me.
Do you think that's ever got anywhere near Keggy?
Yeah, don't let it go near Keggy. No, it's set fire to his own hair, his house, and then it will go out. You are.
I've got the Olympic torch, but you're going to need to bring a box of matches. Keggy.
I've got the Olympic torch, but I've run a bit too close to that orphanage.
I forgot it. It's in me. I brought a three bar fire instead.
Kevin, have you got the torch? Oh, it's in my pocket.
There's a wildfire up in Kevin. Did you go up there on holiday with the Olympic torch?
Can I go, just making you just to pick up on your point about
do it, bro.
About resting players and bringing players in for that final group game against Albania? The key thing to mention for Spain on that, in my view, is the introduction of Dani Olmo.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't score in that game, but he does get an assist. And he's played and scored in every game since. So in actual fact, what it can show you is it's not just a case of resting legs and keeping fresh because you've been so good in the first 2 group games. It's also about can a player come in, deputise, and actually make a big impact. And he's been able to do that. And he's someone who's really had one of the standout displays in this knockout stage, really.
I mean, as good as Pedri is, there's of course an argument that they're actually better with Olmo. He's such a good technician.
Well, they're in the final,
and obviously the goals are indisputable. Yeah. They're there now.
Well, that's right. And I said, well, it wasn't really a sort of second string against Albania. I mean, again, looking at the lineups, I mean, it really was. I mean, it changed nearly every player on the pitch, including the goalkeeper, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And it shows you. And again, the manager, De La Fuente, we've talked about it, but and the same with Southgate. It's always worth bringing it up. His man management, the emotional side of the game, all that kind of stuff. He just appears to get it spot on, and he's spoken about very highly in those regards and in those terms. And to keep a whole squad happy in a tournament, again, it's not an easy thing to do. But you saw them all on the sidelines when they were going through the games, and everyone involved and so on. He's played a blinder there. He absolutely has, and he's similar to Southgate, has gone up through the age cap ranks with Spain as well. Not a huge career outside of international football as a
Lewis
manager.
of the Fountain.
Of the Fountain. I mean, De La Fuente, it's a few translations, but you've gone with Fountain.
What's the other one? What the other one?
Can't remember now.
No,
but Fountains. I think that's the most fitting.
I think it sounds nice. I'd love to be called that.
I will be if England will.
Yeah.
Win. In there.
PT of the Fountain.
Square, yeah.
Yeah, Big Mama UEFA in there.
Yeah, but it's dish.
Mopping the sweat off the backy in there.
That's it. But you're more of a spout, though, aren't you?
Yeah, big. Yeah. It's just more of a trickle these days.
Dish is the other option.
Louis of the Dish.
Yeah.
So
Fountain's better.
Is he a big guy? Not really. No,
A sexy guy.
Yeah, I think he's got his charm.
He's definitely old man hard, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd say so. I can see him casually, because Rafa Benitez taking his glasses off towards the end of the game, putting them in his top pocket is one of the most electrifying moves in sports entertainment.
I'd say so.
Luis de la Fuente could also do that, couldn't he? Is this the opportune moment, given that he's not here to defend himself, which for me is when I do some of my best work, to say that Andy predicted they wouldn't get out the group stage?
I don't know if he went that far, but he didn't seem to give Spain too much credit. He'll deny that, but of course you can if you Google it. Or there is a Sky Sports article with his quotes up. So I
don't know why we've declared war on Andy. This tournament.
Declaring war? It's facts, bruv.
It's not.
We predict things every week.
Have you heard some of the stuff? Have you heard some of the stuff he says about me?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I agree with him.
It's usually in spray paint on a wall, but yeah. So Spain, they, as I say, they progressed through the group, and played a Georgia side who were very enjoyable to watch and played with great enthusiasm and so on. And of course went 1-0 up. But even when they went 1-0 up, it was Spain. It was just okay, fine.
They got patted on the head, didn't they?
Kvaratskhelia lob was almost excellent, and that's the thing. I think sometimes when you go up against a team like Georgia, very unpredictable, and anything can happen. But they just set about it quite professionally and just absolutely saw them off.
And actually, I think
the 4 goals.
What was so impressive about that, and so unique really in this tournament, was that when they were 4-1 up, they were looking to go 5-1 up. Desperately looking to go 5-1 up. And they were just enjoying it in a way that you kind of rarely see in international football in tournaments, because it's such a high-pressured environment. I suppose you only buy that comfort for yourself once you have such a massive cushion. But it was just refreshing, really.
Well, it was, I think enjoyable is the word. In the group stages, obviously, it can be a little bit cagey, and they swatted Croatia aside, and then it was 2-1 nils with players rested, as we say. Once they beat Georgia, then they were playing Germany and then France. It was never going to be quite the same. But who knows what will happen against England. But against Georgia, it is one of those ones where the manager can go, right, go out there and express yourselves. Show everybody what we've got.
And I thought that, for me, the most impressive thing was they didn't allow it to turn into one of these kind of, it's just not our day, we're not going to score, this is going to be a big upset. Because it has happened to them in the past. And it wasn't, I understand the point about them going on looking for a 5th or a 6th or whatever, but Georgia were cooked by then. They were cooked. And the response to Georgia going ahead from Spain, from what I remember, was, nice one, lads. Great. Enjoy that.
Well,
we are patting you on the head, and we are going to steamroller you in a minute. So enjoy it while you can.
And in this game, we saw the wide forwards. I know we keep going back to them, but they've just been so enjoyable and just such entertaining parts of the tournament. We saw them, obviously, Williams scores a good goal, and we know that they're going to go at the fullbacks. But we also started to see, in particular, Yamal, a move they love to do where he cuts inside and then crosses it, like an in-swinger, if you like. And it's been such a devastating move, and we will preview the final tomorrow, but that's something that England have got to be very, very aware. And this Spain side as well, people can be a touch, understandably, a touch sort of stereotypical, if you like, with Spain. Well, they're a possession-based side and so on. They move it much quicker. They're more direct.
Yeah, they have a lot less possession in this tournament than you'd expect them to.
Yeah, and
they're not in the top 3 for possession. Yeah, they're behind Portugal, Germany, and England.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But they love to put a ball in the box,
one more for the data nerds.
But they love to swing a ball in there. They like the
swinging balls. That's the impression I'm getting.
That is the impression, Jim.
Is that the impression you're trying to give, Marcus?
I think so. Yeah.
We've come to a consensus.
Well, they're not trying to just pass the ball in the net, is what I'm saying. They like a bit more variety, perhaps, and they're doing it. And we saw that again when they played Germany. You thought, okay. Here's a different test, and it's usually when a team gets to the quarterfinals. Well, we haven't seen them tested yet, and they play
made of.
Yes, exactly. They play Germany, and a lot of people thought, well, this could have been the final, and I understand that.
Carvalho thought it was the final. Dragging people by the neck.
Oh, that was
come here.
This is my final as well. This is my final.
His reaction to his red card was so funny. Just I'm suspended anyway.
I know. To me, that is like it's such a.
It's a weird loophole.
It is.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But I like the loophole they closed that meant that players can't really miss the final now. Yeah, unless it's something outrageous, they don't really miss the final.
That's right.
Yeah, that is good. That's a good bit of admin from Big Mama UEFA there.
Yeah.
But this was proper cojones from Spain, wasn't it, to keep going in those circumstances?
And also
because they got pegged back.
Well, that's right. Yeah, when they score, this is when Olmo really starts to show his value and his worth. I know he started the last group game, but again, we said that they basically changed the whole team. He'd been off the bench. He'd already been among the goals in the Georgia game, but this is where I think it's fair to say that his tournament sort of really comes into it. He scores against Germany, and now he's a starter, and he doesn't look out of place at all. You could argue that maybe they even look a touch better with him in there. I don't know.
Well, I think he's a different type of player, and he's a very, very relentlessly positive player who has that habit of always seeming to be there and be able to execute. Because, I mean, you're going to come on to this, but the great example of that with the goal he scored against France. But here, it's absolutely vital because they get pegged back. and because they respond.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, it still may be the case. We hope not, but it still may be the case. A lot of people were saying the winner of this game will win this Euros.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the feeling as well. But when Spain, they go one up, they think, okay, let's just... I think for the first time really in the tournament, they thought, okay, let's maybe try and defend the lead a little bit, not quite England-like, but let's do it. And Germany are going at them, so there's obviously cause and effect. Germany get the equaliser, but then Spain don't do that thing where it's like, oh blimey, well now the dynamic of the game is thus. They go, right, okay, let's go and win it in extra time then. And the former Newcastle United man, Pete Donaldson Marino,
Rafa knows best, baby.
gets the goal.
Toon.
Were you when you watched him hang in the air like that?
It was great. It was a great goal.
Lovely
He seemed
stuff.
to take it. He seemed to jump before the cross came in, then, and he just thought, "I'm going to get this. I'm just going to hang out." I mean, Les Ferdinand-esque.
that's a big shout.
The amount of hang time he had, I said at the time, put it on a sneaker because it was just such an iconic sort of silhouette. I've not seen it around. Like I would expect to have seen that a lot more.
Would it be a surprise to you if the Mikel Merino Nike Air brand was to usurp the Jordan brand?
That would be surprising. I wouldn't expect to see a film about how it was created and stuff. Some men in a boardroom.
He did the same celebration as his dad, didn't he, as well?
Which is lovely. Yeah.
And actually, his dad scored in the same stadium.
Yeah, so it was the same goal, the same end, and he celebrated the same corner flag.
Incredible.
With the same commentating over the top of it. I very much enjoyed
with the same pair
match.
of pants on.
Dad's pants.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed I think it was Berlin. There was a massive, obviously, fan park watching this result, and there's a lovely pan across the front of the crowd where it's just a sea of white shirts, all Germany, all gutted, and then one Spanish supporter with a scarf around his head going, and that is the utmost respect to the Germans for not absolutely filling him in because he was being absolutely obscene.
The thing to be impressed by Spain, particularly on this specific issue, I think, is the nature and where they got past Germany, and then it was a bit life or death. Picked up a lot of bookings. Carvajal sent off late on. They had to do it in extra time. 2 subs get involved, etc., etc. And there was no real feeling of it being after the Lord Mayor's show, as they say, against France, who are a big, dangerous opponent themselves and would have been fancied massively before the tournament. And for them to lift themselves and raise themselves again, I thought was super impressive.
Well, and again, against France, it's something that we hadn't seen with Spain, other than with Georgia, but obviously very different, is that they went behind.
Yeah.
And they went fairly early on to a team who were seasoned tournament players. They've got quality. Okay, they disappointed, but they could all blimey, what's going to happen here? But again, stuck to their task, and Yamal scores one of the best, possibly the best goal of the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Dani Olmo is up there with the best in the tournament as well because of the quality of those 2 touches. But it's the speed at which they turned it around that's so impressive as well. There's a sense that they see themselves as the protagonists in every game and really in the tournament as well.
And there was one of the best memes of the tournament was off the back of that Yamal goal. Because do you remember in the Champions League when Rio Ferdinand, there's that video of him when Vinny Jr. scored when he's just shouting Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or. Well, when someone memed it with Lamine Yamal scoring and him just shouting Duke of Edinburgh Award.
Yeah, that was a surprise. He certainly answered, what's his name, old Rabiot, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Rabiot saying he's got to do more. Don't worry about it, Adrian.
Yeah.
He plays for a different club, a different country. Don't worry about it.
It's just silly.
Yeah.
It's just
silly,
bloody silly.
But Jim's right to say that in that kind of game, in the way that Yamal scores the first goal for Spain, it's easy for Dani Olmo's goal to be forgotten, and it was of amazing quality as well. I mean, the technique and the composure and the way to in such an important game was incredible.
Yeah, and again, the way they then played against the rest of the game. They ended 2-1, but they looked comfortable. And if France did equalise, you could just imagine Spain going, right, okay, we now know what to do. We've got to score another goal.
I do wonder if this is a thing that is quite innate with nations who have won a lot of tournaments before, where it never feels like you're out of it. It never feels inevitable
everyone's
that
playing
you
at a
don't have
decent
what
standard.
it takes to get further.
I would still have said that if France got to the final in this one, they would have still been favourites, just simply because they look probably more comfortable than England have looked in this tournament.
Although, I mean, saying that, I think now we're at the final and we've seen most of the tournament, I think there is a very strong argument that aside from maybe Germany, Spain are the only really sort of top side in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think the neutrals would probably want them to win because it would feel right from that point of view if they were to. And also as well, Spain, we know they've got some very good players in there, but they also boast Jose Perez.
Yeah, more players beloved by Rafa.
Influencing the game, Rafa, isn't it? For his beloved Spain.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Joselu as well, lest we forget.
Mad to think there's a rumour now that Salomon Rondon might start the final.
Well, Salomon Rondon's having a lovely time in the Copa America, isn't he? Yeah. So.
Well, he's free. He's free now, so Southgate's trying to sign him.
It's all come up, Rafa.
It certainly has, yeah. So
he'll be at Man United by the end of July.
That's right.
There's another nose injury in that match. The old Spain.
Yeah,
Laporte smashed his nose.
Some notable mad shit. Isn't it? Everyone breaking their noses.
Everyone busting their noses.
It's like that M. Night Shyamalan film, The Happening, where everyone goes mad and takes their own life. But it's noses.
Noses, yeah. It takes their own noses.
So 2 people in that film take their own life.
Jim started it. Have a go at Jim.
No, I'm just... you joined in.
Come off the easy target.
You joined in.
3 people. Fabian Cher as well.
One day when I've had enough, I'm going to
3 people in that film.
Have a go at the Alpha. Don't look at me. He started it. Bullying me, little old me.
Little old Peter Luke there. Spain are the first side in the history of the Euros, as we all know now, to win 6 games at a single tournament, making a mockery once again of Andy Brassel. All right, coming up in the second half.
Not even turned up today.
Coming up in the second half, we've got England's journey to the final. See you in a moment.
Oh, Watkins, you did it! We knew those changes would work! Gareth Southgate, genius! 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 Ollie Watkins! We love you! We love you! We love you! We're in the final unless we screw this up, which is not beyond us, but we are in the final!
Oh, a long climax.
Yeah, he falls down a well.
A long climax from Ross Kemp.
I don't think it's that's not the best Ross Kemp one.
We are in the final.
Yeah.
Unless we screw this up. No, we're in the final. Yeah. That will always be.
No, because he's saying that after the goal, not before the final whistle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not after the final whistle.
That's annoying. Somehow I have to apologise to Ross Kemp in all this.
Yeah. But the best one Ross ever did was...
England rugby.
No, I don't know.
When they beat the All Blacks. Oh, that feels good.
Oh, no, so I'm not even thinking about that one. Oh. I'm thinking about an England football one. I forget which game. It might have been, I can't really remember the game, where he just goes really emotional, starts going, this means everything, everything. And I think he might have his top off.
I was once in a bar and with a mate who's relatively well known in television circles. And
come on.
Kemp came over and started talking to him and within 30 seconds, he was grabbing my mate's arm and putting it on his stomach and going, are these the abs of a 52-year-old man? Like, just too much, that man.
Did you ever feel?
It's great.
He didn't offer me. Didn't offer me a go.
I guess he
didn't offer,
Kemp. Kemp on abs.
Could have been Michael Barrymore.
Could have been Barrymore. Yeah, he very much got involved. Yeah.
Peter Michael Barrymore. It's a tale as old as time. Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
I mean, yeah. Sadly, everybody, he's not lying. Let's talk about England's journey to the final.
All right.
Oh, that's enough. Well,
Pete said.
Yeah, all right. All right.
No, I think Pete said no thank you. But anyway, England's journey to the final, of course, it started against Serbia. And another
header.
Another one of those very one-sided 1-0 wins.
Pete, was it a power header?
I don't think it's quite up there, to be honest, power headers.
He powered the guy out the way.
Yeah, there was definitely power involved.
Powering someone out the way was the powering bit, but I think the header was quite cushioning.
What I love is if you watch it back and you see it from a certain angle and turn the volume right up, you can hear Jude Bellingham go, excuse me. Excuse me, everyone.
Yeah, obviously England beat Serbia 1-0. Bellingham got the goal. In the early stages, I mean, Bellingham scores, was it sort of 10 minutes in or thereabouts?
We're thinking we're away at this point.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
We're going to be the great entertainers.
Yes, exactly. 13 minutes in, sorry, I should say. But it did feel like, right, there's the start. Our star man, Jude Bellingham, scored. We've all seen the Adidas advert with, Hey Jude and all that business. And it felt good. And England looked pretty decent in that first half an hour. Bellingham was kind of strutting his stuff. Kyle Walker, I think, flashed one across the face of goal. Could have maybe got going. And you think this is a good start. And then oddly, towards the end of that first half, it felt a bit like the previous Euros final against Italy. England scored, obviously not that early, but they scored fairly early. And suddenly, Serbia,
their pants were brown.
Yeah, well, I thought, well, hang on, usually we wait to the latter stages for this to happen. And suddenly there was concern. And in the second half, that concerned didn't really lift. There was the moment Bowen crossed for Kane and the keeper makes a great save. But after the game, Jim, and when we came into this studio, you and I were a bit concerned. Andy and Luke tried to be a bit more practical about it, or maybe even philosophical, dare I suggest. But we were concerned.
Yeah, because the shape felt wrong, didn't it? The left-hand side was disjointed. This feels like quite a long time ago now, doesn't it?
It really
how much
does.
People that were sort of worried about the left side in particular not really working.
It hasn't worked for most of the tournament. It hasn't worked for more of the tournament than it has worked, I would say.
Absolutely, and there are still potentially issues with it now, depending on the fitness of Luke Shaw, I would argue. And I guess we'll see on Sunday how that pans out. But it wasn't convincing, was it?
No, it wasn't. And Trent Alexander-Arnold started in the centre of midfield, and he took a bit of flack. He
was replaced about 20 minutes left, wasn't he, by Conor Gallagher?
Yeah, and England got away with a 1-0 win, and some were saying, okay, grow into the tournament, it's just the first game and so on. But England looked tired, and they looked like the pressure was getting to them, and we had affirmation of that from Southgate a little bit later, of course, in the tournament. And against Denmark, everyone thought, right, okay, chance to put this right. Good side for England to play. There's going to be no thrills really from this Danish side. They're going to be solid. They're going to be, but England will just simply be better. And again, Peter, it was a bit of a damp squib.
Yeah, you sort of look back to that Bellingham goal in the first match and sort of go, God, that was a much more important goal than I think we probably give it credit for.
It was utterly crucial for England's journey. Let's not piss about it that they were in the more favourable side of the draw.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's fair to say that it would be unlikely England would be in the final if they had to play Germany, because obviously Denmark wouldn't play Germany because they didn't win the group, or if they'd have been in that side of the draw. But
they've matched but not exceeded the energy of the other side.
It really is it. Yeah, they've not. I mean,
that's all you can ask for, isn't it? Really, in many ways.
Not according to a lot of people,
right?
But,
true. Yeah.
But this is where people started thinking, hang on a minute, this is not good. Alarm bells are ringing. And in the final game against Slovenia, obviously Alexander-Arnold is taken out, and people thought, hang on, this should have been sorted before the tournament.
Yeah.
This feels like back of a fag packet kind of, writing down the tactics, all that kind of thing. What is going on here? So against Slovenia, we had a wonderful watch-along. Everyone had a lovely time despite the performance.
Because they simply weren't watching the game.
Exactly. But England, we were hoping for them to click.
Yeah.
And Slovenia was the game where we went to go, okay, boys, enough's enough. Let's go out there. Let's beat them 2 or 3-0 and let's just everybody relax. It didn't happen, Luke.
Put your feet up in front of the telly and have a good time is what we wanted to do, but we weren't able to. Look, I think in context, I wonder whether, given that England are in the final now, which makes it a different conversation because we didn't have the knowledge of that then, I wonder whether there's an element to this where England were keeping their powder dry. I don't believe, in retrospect, the stuff that Southgate said about how we're not fit enough to do this and we're not fit enough to do that. I think that's just a little bit of kidology, really. I think that they're trying to build their way into the tournament. If you look at if you take to go into the knockout stages and go through Slovakia and the other games, they've got better every game.
Saka's improved every game. But Saka, in terms of that fitness talk, I mean, he was subbed twice for Bowen. Yeah. I think Saka has improved his fitness as the tournament's gone, and you sometimes get that.
He was coming back from an injury.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, I think England have compartmentalised this tournament. They've said group stage, win the group. Right, it's fine to win the group,
and that's fine.
And then you kind of reset and go again. And I don't think, I'm not saying it was great. I'm not saying that they'd set the world alight or whatever. But given England are now in the final, that's fine. I don't really want to set the world alight in the group.
That's fine, but that's just not how it played out, though, because of the results and getting a bit of fortune that Denmark didn't score against Serbia. If England had beaten Slovenia 1-0 and it was a similar performance, a bit laboured, and they scored fairly early, I could kind of go along with that. But actually, England failed to beat Slovenia when they obviously wanted to beat them. And this bad form and this bad vibe carried on over into the Slovakia game. If you saw a different side against Slovakia, you could then argue that. I get what you're saying a little bit, Luke, but there's no doubt that alarm bells were ringing, things weren't quite happening, they looked sluggish, and the mood in the camp wasn't great. And
the mood in the crowd wasn't great. And I my feelings about England fans, I'm quite concerned if I'm an England player, then I'm having to play in front of people who are throwing shit at my manager. Like, it's not a positive place to sub.
Wet wipe. grow up.
Well, what I would say is that most of the England fans were in good voice there, but I understand your point that why on earth would you throw?
There was a lot of booing. There was a lot of booing happening, wasn't there? I mean, like it's not ideal. I realised that with good performances in previous
boo AFA.
in previous tournaments, there is a bit of expectation.
They want to thank the administrators.
There is a raft of like lads on my kind of like Facebook and Twitter and stuff that they never talk about football, and then every 2 years...
Are you on Facebook?
They're suddenly on... so I told them I wasn't.
You're selling stuff on Marketplace?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
But like, you do see these lads, and it is mainly lads, that they don't talk about football. They don't have a club. And then every 2 years, they go out to wherever England are playing to support England. And I do sort of go, right... What are you into this for exactly?
Yeah.
What is the issue here?
Definitely, and I think I mentioned this maybe a few shows ago, talking about how it's full of people who don't watch football normally, and that's fine. You don't want to be, like I say, you don't want to be a gatekeeper about it. But basically, what those types of people always do is they complain. They don't really ever acknowledge the fact that the other teams playing against England want to win. And in certain cases have good players, and will make it difficult for England. And if I may be allowed one comparison to Portsmouth, it's when Portsmouth were in League Two, it was really difficult for them because every other team wanted to stop them playing. And the league that that Portsmouth was supposed to blitz, they weren't able to. I think with teams like Slovenia, with teams like Serbia, with teams like possibly even Denmark and Slovakia, they just make it hard. And it's fine to criticise England for not being able to break them down or not being ingenious enough to work it out. But that does happen more often than you think. And there's other teams in this tournament who have been fancied before the tournament who are A, no longer in it, and B, have also encountered the exact same problem that England have had.
Yeah. There's also an element in a lot of fan bases, and you see it at every stadium you go to, anywhere. Some people like criticising their team. They think it's part of it, in the same way that a certain person thinks you go to a comedy club and you're supposed to heckle.
It's
part of it. Like,
why are you looking at me?
I'm sorry.
I don't go to the tour anymore.
I'm sorry, boys, but I have to stick up for the England fans. That's just not how it plays out with England. They support that team to the hilt.
But,
England have
Marcus.
No. Listen, let me finish this because you're talking bollocks. England have one of the best fan bases in terms of support in the world. I would argue, genuinely.
Look, I'm not saying it's a huge amount of people doing that. But I'm just saying that is part of a mentality that we see among a lot of football fans. There have been boos and there have been bottles thrown at the manager.
Well, plastic cups, Jim. Let's be clear.
Plastic cups, Jim.
But I'm not denying that. But the England fans were there, and Southgate's handled himself very, very well.
He did praise them after the game.
He did, and unfortunately with England there is that sort of silly section. We saw this with Belgium. We've seen with other supporters, but there's absolutely no doubt that the fans were annoyed because of what they were seeing on the pitch.
Sure.
And what they were seeing on the pitch, it wasn't a case of we're really sort of. It looked disjointed. It looked all over. It looked like they'd all run a marathon and that they'd all just met each other for the first time, and some of them spoke different languages.
They've gone in the wrong direction.
Exactly. It was strange, and I understand your point that the other team want to win and the other team will make it difficult. Serbia attacked England. England didn't really have too much to offer, and it looked disjointed, and it was very, very concerning. And that didn't really change around. Look at the Slovakia game. I mean, my goodness.
We were pretty negative after the Slovakia game, to be fair.
England had to, they went through ultimately because of a 95th minute overhead kick from Jude Bellingham, and then Kane scores in extra time. Now, I've never seen it snatched from the jaws of defeat so incredibly, emphatically from an England player. But England was so close to another Iceland kind of moment. They were so close. And if injury time isn't quite long enough, if Gay's all this sort of stuff, England go home in disgrace, and it would have been shocking.
That's how fine the margins are.
Absolutely. And we said at the time, and a lot of people did, does that goal just prolong the agony? Or does it become one of the most important goals in English football history? And
Bellingham himself said after the game, I'll tell you in 2 weeks.
Exactly. And thus far, I think even if England lose the final, it goes down as an incredibly important goal. There's no two ways about that. Because, if England bombed out to Switzerland and we beat 3-0, we go, well, there you are, just prolong the agony.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, it's a tragic end to a really, really positive era, as you've spoken about a lot, Marcus.
And it was so close to that.
This is, in our lifetimes, Southgate has given us the best experience we've had as England fans, really. I mean, we're mostly too young to fully remember Italia 90, but the consistency of it we've not seen in our lifetime. And if we go out to Slovakia there, it's such a sad ending to that.
But let me tell you about Italia 90 as well. It's not like this. Like, a lot of people get misty-eyed about it because of the way it worked and what transpired. England that was a massive tournament for me. It was my kind of awakening into football, and I fell in love with football there, and I've never looked back. So it was massively important for me. I used to watch the VHS video of that tournament over and over again as a kid, so I know it quite well. If you look at how England actually get through to where they get through to, compared to the sustained amount of like almost procedural quote unquote success, caveat they haven't actually won anything, but the consistency that Southgate has got, it's night and day. Because England in World Cup 90, the group stage is stodgy as fuck, and they get through.
Well, tournament was, you could argue,
because they beat Egypt in the final group game, and Republic of Ireland and Netherlands. You know, it's all a bit, you know, it's just draws everywhere.
They did have a positive performance against Netherlands, though,
but it wasn't a win.
No,
right? And then against Belgium in the second round, Platt scores a Bellingham-style goal in the last minute of extra time. Right, Belgium had one or two good players, but weren't fancy to go deep. Life and death against Cameroon, which they completely overlooked and didn't prep behind, for. 2 penalties from Lineker, and they go out in the semi-final anyway. So I think it's actually it's more than Italia 90, even though culturally Italia 90 is very, very significant.
Yeah. Against Switzerland,
formation change.
Gareth
Reset,
made the change
we go.
because he thought to himself, "We will get beat if we just keep doing the same thing."
And he was scared by the Switzerland manager's comments
and his good looks.
Yeah,
he looks like Mads Mikkelsen playing a serial killer, doesn't he?
A little bit like that.
He disrespected Italy, didn't he? He said, "I knew if they played forward at the back, we would absolutely murder them," or something. Didn't he say something like that, or crucify them, or something like that?
To destroy them. Yeah, words to that effect. Yeah, it was quite terrifying. I think. I mean, Switzerland, we knew were a good side, but England, I think with Southgate, his criticism was he keeps saying, "No, trust the process. It'll come good. It'll come good." England found themselves in a quarter-final. And the moments that Southgate was talking about that could change, could carry England through. I don't think when he spoke about that, he was thinking about 95th minute equalising overhead kicks. I think he was talking about, Saka scoring against Switzerland, Ollie Watkins coming on against the Dutch to do that. That's a bit more like it. Yeah. And so he changes the system, of course, and it looked better. It didn't look brilliant, but it looked better, and it nullified the Swiss and it neutralised them. And England were better. There's no two ways about that. But it still wasn't vintage. It still was stodgy, and England went behind, but showed character coming back with that Saka goal. But it goes to penalties.
The pens were great.
Yeah.
Enjoying the pens.
And this could be, despite that loss in the Euros final against Italy, and providing England don't lose on penalties to Spain in the final, helping England enormously with penalty shootouts could be one of Southgate's
big marginal gains.
Marginal gains and legacies as England manager.
Not even marginal, you'd imagine.
I was going to say, Jim, that I think England are so good at penalties that Switzerland, we could have put Donny in goal for England for the penalty shootout, taken Pickford off, put Donny in.
Little hands.
And the amount of time it would have taken Donny to save one of the Swiss pens, about 50 or 60 pens probably on average.
We would have scored everyone.
We would have scored every single one. It wouldn't matter because we would have just never ever missed a pen.
Imagine my bottle. It would have to be like a yard of ale length, wouldn't it?
You had a yard of ale before you come on.
How did I get here?
Well, how long would it take you to save a Swiss pen?
I don't know. I mean, the one that
you
was
are tiny
saved,
in that goal.
The one that was saved.
Kanji's was savable.
The one that was saved, I could probably.
That's going under Dawson. That's going under him.
No, I
don't
think,
fly.
I think you'd have saved Fabian Schär as well.
Would you have saved the Kanjis?
I think you're never going to save it as an amateur.
Here you are.
But with 50 goals, you'd save one. Of that exact same penalty.
If he puts it in the same spot.
Yeah, exactly.
He goes to save that one.
Okay, do it again.
And he knows where it's going.
Do it again, same place. Do it again. Do it again.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
After 47
you forget
attempts,
how difficult it is to save a penalty against a proper Premier League football.
Yeah,
nobody can do it.
No, but they can.
Well, England couldn't do it.
Well, Pickford did.
Yeah,
England couldn't do it before this tournament.
But Pete, if that a penalty, so I think I'm between you both here because what people do underestimate, Marcus, is how hard those players strike the penalty.
Yeah.
So it looks like a side foot,
even that one,
hard.
even that one looks like a weak penalty. It will be it cannon off your chest. Into the back.
One of them would penalty it, and it would be saved.
It's a 50, you reckon?
50, and I'd say one of them. I reckon.
No, I reckon 15.
Really?
You'd say 15 out of 50.
Have you looked?
No, not 15. I reckon it would take 15 attempts. Because what
it.
you would do after, you would just launch yourself into one corner or another, and just by the law,
and you get lucky.
Yeah, I think because
your timing would be off. You're too slow. We're too short. All of these things.
You know that camera shot from behind the taker. If you put Donaldson in that shot with a massive pair of goalie gloves on, it would look absolutely comical.
Yeah. The ones you get.
And there's like a sponge hand.
He's not massively tall, though, is he?
Doesn't
He's
matter.
only like 6
Pickford.
foot, isn't he?
Pickford, I think he's taller than 6 foot. I think.
Is he?
Anyway.
Right.
You're about 5'7".
We've got the same length arms.
Yeah. If I may wrestle it back to a different point about penalties, I think the advantage
Where else could I play?
that has been gained here, and we saw it in the Switzerland game, is that England don't look frightened to go to penalties
Yes.
now, so they don't play within themselves in extra time. I think that's been a huge advantage.
Can I just say also, in addition to that, I'm not scared of them going to penalties. And when it came to the Netherlands game, I also wasn't scared about them going to extra time, which is a feeling.
New, isn't it?
Feeling,
Yeah, I mean, and look, one can be confident with penalties and you can still lose a penalty shootout.
Sure.
I mean, look at France when they beat Portugal. As Andy was saying, that you had a couple of players in there who'd never taken spot kicks before, but Mbappe said, look, this is a demonstrable skill. You can do this. And you get a couple of guys who'd never taken them and they stick it in the top corner. So, again, you can do all the prep and all the rest of it and so on. But, you know, there is an element of luck. It's a very small element of penalty shootouts. But if the keeper guesses the right way, as we saw with Jordan Henderson against Colombia, a good penalty, but a fantastic save. So England have definitely taken away the fear, which is very important by and large. Hopefully that will be the case if indeed that final goes to penalties. Sorry to say that, everybody. I'm moving on from that point right now. One England player who had a bit of a difficult tournament up until the Switzerland game was Phil Foden, and he looked a little bit better on that right side, or playing with two number 10s, of course, behind Harry Kane. A lot of people were maybe calling him to be dropped. You know, we'd mentioned this, or Jude Bellingham and so on. But the two of them set up behind Harry Kane and have now changed the conversation, really, with the quarter-final, and more specifically the semi-final, that actually people are now saying, is Kane the man to be dropped? But Foden has improved as the tournament's gone on, Jim, and he's going to score in the final.
Well, it feels like he's got a big moment in him, hasn't he? Because
I nearly did against Netherlands.
Well, twice. He's
getting closer and closer.
Very, very nearly scored what would have been two contenders for goal of the tournament, really, had either of them come off. But, as you mentioned on the show the other day, like, you've got those four players in the front that seem untouchable with Bellingham, Kane, Foden and Saka. Foden is really the only one, Foden is the only one not to score so far. Yeah. And it does feel like he's growing into the tournament. We know how good he is, however much criticism he might have and however much people have been calling for him to be dropped. He has got that in him, and I don't know, it does feel slightly fated, doesn't it, that he's going to have an impact.
What did the psychic say to him, Peter?
Yeah.
What did the psychic say? I mean, he's had a baby, hasn't he?
Well, I was going to say, two things between Slovenia and Switzerland. His wife gives birth to a child.
Yeah. It's not that big a deal, is it, in the life of a man?
Incredibly worrying and stressful time, and he's a human being, and he's in a different country. I mean,
can you imagine that, having to fly back from somewhere?
Well, it's not
there we are, hold the baby, get the phone. Right, I'm off now.
Go again.
Incredible.
But the whole discourse about it, right?
I think we've forgotten about that, to be honest.
The whole discourse about it with footballers is odd anyway. I honestly think, you probably argue the person I am means I'd never be a top-level athlete. Understand that. But just thinking about it from my own experiences as a father, if my wife was going to give birth in the middle of this tournament, I don't even know if I want to go. Yeah. If it was my first child, particularly.
You're just talking about what we're doing.
Exactly.
You wouldn't leave the studio.
Yeah, any excuse not to hang out with you lot. The second thing is they changed the formation, which massively suits him. So the two things have really improved because he's probably got a lot of weight off his mind now, knows his wife and his baby being cared for. That's all gone fine without a hitch. And now he comes back into a system which suits his skills a lot more. And that is why we're seeing a better version of Foden. And it looks to me, I agree with you guys, it looks to me that he's getting closer and closer. He's hit I think he's hit the post twice. He had that amazing potential goal cleared off the line by Denzel Dumfries. If it happens in the final, then you could say he's timed it pretty well.
Well, that's right, yeah.
That chance, I mean, you spoke about it, I think, the match after, the ramble after the match, but good God, like, that was dead and buried. The ball was behind him, they were attending sort of defenders and stuff. I know it didn't go in and
some
stuff,
of the best feet I've ever seen.
Such a shame
to get a shot off was incredible.
Some of the best feet you will ever see.
It's such a shame.
Maybe Jude Bellingham should have a baby instead of, touching himself. Disgusting. That would improve him.
What, doing the old
hand? Right. Yeah. All that.
Okay. It's maybe for another show.
Big Mama UEFA. Big Mama UEFA could have derailed our tournament with that ban. She suspended the ban because she's a benevolent Big Mama.
Indeed. Now, the mood around England, though, changed after that penalty shootout win against Switzerland because winning a penalty shootout, it's not like you're winning 1-0 and then you kind of hang on or whatever. Because even in Slovakia, England go 2-1 up and then kind of retreat, which I didn't think was the worst thing to do, quite frankly, in the circumstances. But there's still that. Was winning a penalty shootout, you get that almighty cheer, that almighty relief and joy.
Especially from scoring all five.
Yeah, but it's done. Do you know what I mean? It is the equivalent of last gasp winner, and you know there's not even time to take kickoff. It's that's how the game is decided, and that will always win people over because they've given them that joyous moment. And I think most people were kind of beginning to be won over. Against Netherlands, we see England play better. You've mentioned Foden there. England in that first half.
Sensational.
Basically just say, we're better than you. We know our jobs. We know the system. Gay's back in the side. Konza came in. And even things like that. Konza came in and he looked like he'd been playing the whole tournament.
He was to the manner born.
Exactly. And this was much more positive. And although England in the second half, we saw a little bit of the kind of stodgy and they seemed to be kind of shut down
But that's a physical thing that happens to every team, isn't it?
It's also because Netherlands completely changed how they played.
Sure. But the fact is, they found a way to win. And Southgate's substitutions, he's vindicated there. He's criticised for the subs, and people say, well, he might have brought them on earlier.
Well, also criticised for not really knowing what he's doing and being a bit out of his depth. And the fact that those two substitutes combined for a goal in a way that was never going to happen with the players that were previously on the pitch shows that he does indeed have a plan.
And you know what? That Watkins goal was so good, Jim. You just describing it as quote-unquote a goal there. It makes me feel like it doesn't do it justice. It makes me feel like someone's described the Titanic as an accident. Do you know what I mean? It's more than that, though, isn't it? It feels bigger than that. That goal was, to me, possibly my favourite England goal.
Yeah.
I mean, just the manner of it, the quality of it. Oh, it's just the
commentary was great.
The commentary was good.
Well, we say Southgate was vindicated. Obviously, Ollie's mum was vindicated
she was
as well.
Kicking off, wasn't she?
There's a little video of her doing the rounds where she was speaking to England fans in a pub early this week where she said, on Wednesday, my wish is that they finally let my son come on the fucking pitch.
A bit Delia about it.
Let Delsey May speak.
Yeah.
A bit of Delia about it.
A little bit.
Yeah,
well, I think maybe that's my... Well, I think you're right.
Yeah, there's a bit of Delia in it. Same energy as Delia.
The same energy.
Are your mums doing
singer,
that about
she?
you in this tournament? Mine's been very quiet.
Yeah.
That's true.
My mum simply doesn't have a full understanding of what it is I do. And that's fine by me.
Well,
my mum sent me some Gaviscon via mail.
That's good.
That's what we got.
And a clean,
Unprompted?
Completely unprompted.
This,
Yeah. But it will be used.
and a clean pair of underwear.
I don't know if every year, without fail. I don't know if this reached you two, but a while back, Pete described to me that when he went to go visit his parents, he described his mum going up and down the stairs like a snake.
What? She's got a bad hip and she refuses to get it fixed.
So she sort of slithers up
on all fours. Yeah, it's absolutely tragic.
All four, like a snake on all fours.
Well, any limbs. It doesn't.
That's a low all four.
Jim, it doesn't survive, whichever angle you come at it from, it doesn't survive the most basic of scrutiny. It's the weirdest description of anything I've ever heard.
I call her Christine Donaldson.
Oh, dear.
Poor Chris.
Send her our best, though.
Send her our best.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
Why were you talking about me? No reason.
Well, yeah. So England, when Watkins scores that goal, everyone's on board. Even Southgate's biggest critics are saying, okay, fair enough, you got to the final. I don't think the playing style and he would win them over in some regards. But if England win the tournament, I do think those people put their weapons down.
I think that is true up to a point.
Okay.
I think there are people where even if England win the tournament and even if they win it convincingly, there will be people who say, but it should have been better than that. And anyone could do that with this squad. And I think, Marcus...
Not with Spain in the final.
But I think that says more about those people than it does about Southgate.
Well,
because certain type of people struggle to admit that they've been wrong about things.
Yeah,
Sure.
would you like, for example, just to chuck a further amount of information into this discussion, do you want to hear, for example, what Danny Baker thinks of it?
Go on.
Who is, in our area of the world, has had quite an influence over the years. I can read you some of his tweets if you like, particularly the one after the semi-final.
It's very pro Gareth, isn't he?
Yeah. This is a piss-poor semi-final for a piss-poor tournament. Gareth Southgate is lucky to be in charge of this squad in a piss-poor Euros. He's done nothing to elevate the team. They have achieved piss-poor status, which is about his mark.
Yeah, and it was
9:34 p.m.
And that's, I think that's piss poor from Danny, who, let's be honest, in later life hasn't covered himself in glory.
No.
But, yes, okay, so you will get, I think you look at, if you take sort of percentages or whatever, I think there's a lot of people who are critical about Southgate, understandably, in this tournament. But I think the knives were out anyway, despite the team's very good performances and entertaining performances, I would argue, in previous tournaments. But I think some of them have sort of gone, okay, fine. You will get that section that you can never change. If Southgate wins a tournament, people will always go, okay, fair enough, I doubted him, but well done. But I do think those people will think, fine, won the tournament, but you've had your time now.
Yeah.
So that's probably the mood. The FA have said that they want him to stay on. I don't think he will, whatever the result. But the fact of the matter is he's got England to back-to-back European Championship finals. It's unprecedented for the England national team.
Yeah, and ITV mentioned once or twice that it's the first one on foreign soil.
Why did everyone keep saying foreign soil?
I guess it's a new kind of bell to add to it, isn't it?
Right. But everyone just kept saying foreign soil.
I do think that it is something that's the first time that England have reached a major final.
Talk about home soil, away from home soil.
I would say behind enemy lines. There you go.
Much more dramatic.
Yeah.
Gets you on board, gets you pumped, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And again,
I'm on board with that.
You know, we're on the march to Berlin, Jim.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He won't leave that one alone, will he?
No.
Yeah.
Well, keeps thinking he's sneaking it in,
I know,
but we're all
exactly,
hearing
yeah.
it.
So we're not going to Berlin for the final.
None of us are marching anywhere.
The Dutch would have done. They did like their marches, didn't
Yeah,
they?
much more peace-loving, aren't they, the Dutch? Have a doob.
Are they?
Have a doob.
The only march they use is to light their joints.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.